biggest companies are still not even out of the blocks with AI and hype. In some respects, it's actually killing the industry. Then getting people to use it is probably an even bigger challenge. AI is not ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a Gen AI tool. Fundamentally, it's a token prediction engine.
One of the other awards was one that used to have Knobber of the Year.
You can only nominate yourself for the award. We want this to be an epic fail. We pay $2,500 as a cash prize.
Do you see the same level of curiosity in your leadership team?
To get people, champions in your team, that can take that team on a journey and get them to start using it, we've got to do that in every single department that we've got. And those people who don't do it will be laggards, and I think we'll lose.
Have you got clients who they're doing something that couldn't be done before? Are you seeing people lay people off? This sort of tidal wave of cutting, do you see that in your customers at all?
Hi, Dominic, I'm Steve Salvin. I'm the founder and CEO of Aiimi. My career, I've worked in technology. All of my career, I started after graduating in Manchester at a company called EDS, now HP. Went on to work for a global SI called PwC. And then I became vice president of a software company called OpenText. It's a big global player in the content management space, and then latterly went on to become vice president of EMEA for MicroStrategy. It's a DC-based analytics firm. And then back in 2007, I started Aiimi.
And was it an AI business in 2007?
No, Aiimi the big idea was we wanted to bring the worlds of content management and data management together. And to put that in perspective, content management, think about things like email and SharePoint, Office documents, spreadsheets, web content, videos, all of that stuff. And then from a data management, think about big corporate systems like SAP, Workday, ServiceNow, data warehouses. Those two landscapes of information in most organizations sit on different tech. They've got different governance. They're completely disconnected, different owners. Our big idea was to join those two worlds together. And by connecting them together, unlock insights and provide kind of untold value to our customers.
Well, as you're talking, I'm just thinking, people might have connected, they might have uploaded a Word document into Salesforce, but there's no way to search the content of those Word documents inside those technology platforms, or certainly, historically, they're just, it's in there somewhere, but you can't bloody find it, is normally what people say.
Yeah, no, it's right. I mean, just to bring that to life through one of our customers, a water utility company. Imagine that somebody goes out on a job to go and fix a pipe that's burst. They get that job, there's a location, they go to that pipe, there's all sorts of assets that are failing with data that's coming out of everywhere. They'll go and fill out forms, letting someone know what they've done. They'll get in a van, drive back home. All of that data that exists is in lots of different corporate systems, and none of it is connected. So when people want to come back and try and figure out what happened, how did we do? Did we fix that job? Are the customers happy? It's like a minefield to go and piece that together.
Well, I remember we moved offices at Pier 1, and so we had this grand opening and all the staff were due to come in. The old office had been decommissioned, and BT had told us that they would have a fibre circuit in our building for when we opened. But when the guys turned up, they realised there was no ducting. And so they couldn't blow fibre to the office because there wasn't a duct to blow it down. So for the first month, everyone worked from home and we had a completely empty office.
Yeah.
So it's exactly stuff like that happens all the time. That's just crap corporate systems.
Yeah. One of the things that we'll get onto is there's lots and lots of value buried in those conversations in email, in WhatsApp, in Slack conversations. If you can kind of unpack those together with assets and jobs and people and customers and actually unlock some of the things that are failing, we call them black boxes, they're kind of hidden away. If you can unpack those and figure out what went wrong, it gives you a chance to then learn and change the processes and change the way we do something. I think about the aviation industry, that's where I get it from, right? You go to that black box, there's all these data records about what happened, what conversation was said. People unpack that, and that goes into R&D to build new components that won't fail. Those black boxes exist in every company. It's just that they're impossible to find and impossible to see.
Okay. Steve, what are some of the things that you believe are true, or what are some of the things you think other people think are true and you think is total nonsense?
When we started the company, one of the big drivers for it was to try and create an environment that was caring. One of our corporate values is caring. And 17 years ago, that felt like a bit of a wishy-washy thing to talk about. I'd worked as a vice president in executive teams, and the concept of caring about people was alien. And I felt a big part of that was there was a kind of hierarchy of people with their importance, and the benefits and the privileges and the entitlement that they thought they could have is something I found quite distasteful. One of the things we created when we started the company is we didn't have PAs, we didn't have private offices, we didn't have dedicated parking spaces, and the benefits that we put in place were there for everybody. I think caring is something that, the importance of that has really caught up in the last 5 or 6 years or so. More and more companies are bringing that as something that, they're seeing it as important to be able to keep their staff, especially attract Gen Z, some of the new workers that are coming into the industry. That's something that's really important to them.
Okay.
I think the comet of ChatGPT that landed about 3 years ago, within months, people were sidling up to me explaining, the capabilities that it had, the reasoning, the intelligence, and, the sorts of things that it was going to do. And I can't believe the hype and the bullshit that people are seeing. If you go onto LinkedIn today and you have a look around, what people are claiming that they can do, it's actually terrifying. And some of the biggest companies that we work with are still not even out of the blocks with AI. Most of them have banned it. Most of them have dabbled with Copilot with a few users. But actually the big challenge that they're all facing is that as soon as they connect that to their data, I like to use this phrase, enterprise chaos. The sheer data that they've got, how difficult, how messy a lot of that is. As soon as you connect these language models to your data, it's only as good as that information. Most companies that are out there are really just getting out of the blocks. They're on the first rung of the ladder. They're learning, trying to figure this out. And the hype, honestly, it's in some respects, it's actually killing the industry because people are so fed up with it. They've actually spent some money, got nowhere fast, and they're losing the will to live with it. And we've got to change the approach to how we adopt AI in the enterprise.
And so let's dig into that then. What have people, because I think this is fascinating, I see this all the time where somebody tells me something that they believe to be true about AI capability, and I go, and where's that actually being deployed? And they're talking third hand. I saw a guy on YouTube and he said it was possible. Then they don't have a real case study of somebody actually doing it. And then I have random people who aren't in the tech space telling me that AI can go and buy things. It's like, who, where? Give me and they go, oh, I just heard. It's just nonsense. And as you say, in the enterprise where people would get real value out of this, certainly one of the data points I saw the other week was, only 21% of enterprise have actually done anything sensible because it's non-trivial.
One thing that's interesting, right? I'm showing my age now, but I graduated in 1990, 87 to 90. I went to University of Manchester. I did maths and computer science. And one of my modules was AI back in the day. So if we just kind of bring that back, AI is not ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a Gen AI tool. Fundamentally, it's a token prediction engine. It's good at guessing the next words in a stream of words, and it's been trained on trillions of data points, so it kind of understands the formation of English language. And therefore, it's pretty good at stringing together sentences. But if you go back in the day, AI was really statistical models, mathematical models that are really good at being able to identify similarity of things, so match patterns and how close to something is it. And all the way from kind of the early 80s to now, those models have been getting more and more sophisticated, and they're really bloody good. We used to call it data science, people that would go and do machine learning and build models to effectively be able to identify patterns and similarity of things and do clever things with it. There's still loads and loads of great things to be got from that. Gen AI, for me, is the big hype thing that's come along since ChatGPT was landed. And most of the enterprise use of it has been in vanity projects, recording the minutes of a meeting. I mean, I don't know, have you tried to use it? But when you've got a Teams call where you're recording the minutes of a meeting and you've got 10 people in the room, most of what comes out of it is garbage. Most of the time you can't use it. It's pretty good if everybody is remote, because then it's good at picking up the individual conversations and figuring out the threads. But where people have been using it for chatbots, so how can I get customers or employees to have a chat, ask questions and get answers? That's had very mixed results, because again, it's only as good as the information the chatbot can see. Quite often, some of the policies don't even have the answers to the questions that people are answering, so it hallucinates and gives them something wrong. What really has happened in the last couple of years, people have been experimenting and playing with it, and they can see this is a profound capability. How we actually monetize it and do something clever with it has proven to be a bit trickier than we thought. And the big realization that we're seeing around the world is we need to go and look at our data. We need to make sure we're pointing these things at the right information with the right answers, and that's in good shape. And in most big companies, it's quite poor, and there's a lot of work to do before we're going to get the value.
What's your best example of a project you've done with one of your enterprise clients where it's really had a great impact?
Again, I talked about vanity. So rather than thinking about ChatGPT at home, a chatbot, how do I put a prompt in and get some question back? Really what we're thinking about with AI now is more about agentic processes, something that's working in the background, something that can work 24/7, 365 days a year, doing something, some heavy lifting, doing something that either humans find impossible to do or something that humans are not prepared to do. To give you an example of that, one of our customers, it's an engineering company that makes machines, has been able to point their data, go and look at all of the failures that have ever happened, all of the maintenance jobs that have ever happened, and look at the type of work that was done, assess the root causes for each machine and each job and each maintenance cycle, and then learn about what were the things that were done that actually accelerated a fix. Build that into a knowledge base, and then when failures and incidents and new things come in, AI is really good at being able to match that to something that it's seen before and recommend the best course of action to go and fix it. We're seeing more and more of that happening now. Go and look at potentially millions of things that have happened before, figure out knowledge. What did we do? What were the root causes? What were the lessons learned? Who were the people involved? And then start arming people that are in the field dealing with live incidents with real insights into what they can do to fix it. So really, we're using AI to generate and surface knowledge that then people can access.
Yes, and that's just something that would have been impossible before. But you've got to present the data in the right way.
You have. I mean, a good example, my CTO likes to quote the line, whenever you ring a call center, you get the line, this call may be recorded. And we all know that no one's ever going to listen to that. Who ever listens to that? Unless there's a complaint and someone's doing some kind of forensic analysis of what happened. But actually, if we can transcript that call and we can use AI to now go and learn what were the subjects, what were people talking about, what were the issues, and ultimately connect that to other information and figure out what were the lessons learned, what did we do to fix it. There's so much value in those conversations, in Slack messages and emails, and use AI to literally go and listen to millions of calls and start figuring out that corporate knowledge. That's where the game is, and that's where agentic AI can play and help us.
Yeah, we had Attic and Tank on from Jotform a couple of weeks ago, and you were saying there about the data doesn't exist. He built a chatbot to take over his first line support, or he built a chatbot And his customers started using it for first line support. So they started using it, and they realized that the data was only available to do about 25% answers with a chatbot, but it freed up his team enough to get it so that it now does 85% correct. And he's taken his response rate down from a day to a couple of hours. So, he's seeing it as doing something that couldn't have been done before and improving service quality. But he hasn't got rid of any people. Have you got clients who, like you said there, they're doing something that couldn't be done before? Are you seeing people lay people off? Is there this sort of tidal wave of cost cutting? Do you see that in your customers at all? Anywhere?
Just want to echo a point that your previous guest made. One of the cool things about that story, and it's something that I will encourage our customers to do, is rather than feel the fear of failing, start experimenting, start using it. You'll start finding limitations of its capability, more likely limitations of the data that you've got, but go on a journey to add more data, make that data better, start getting more and more value, and incrementally get more confident in the value and the safety of AI. One of the big challenges we've all got is the protectors of the realms in these big companies, cyber, legal, security, compliance, they want to shut it down. We've got to experiment, we've got to start using it, got to learn, and we've got to learn with real business examples and build that confidence and go on a journey together. So that's very cool. Back to your point about laying people off. Honestly, I don't think there's that many organizations have got to the maturity yet where they're transforming their business models and really going on that journey that I think will be possible. Most of them are still in that experiment and learning phase. What I have seen, probably secondhand, is some of the big global SIs and big consulting companies that we partner with, they're starting to use AI to do some of the more administrative functions that is eating in to those new graduate roles. We're starting to see those companies either laying off junior people or not hiring as many graduate interns. And I think that's something that over the next few years will play out, because that's got to have a big effect on those companies. But more and more, I think very junior admin roles are being eaten by AI. I think in our world, it's more about productivity and getting you to do higher value stuff.
And it's interesting because if you think about AI as a technology problem, then it wouldn't normally be the CEO's decision. But when you start describing what gets in the way and those fiefdoms and silos, then the only person in the organization who can make the resource allocation decisions is the CEO. And so it means that if you're going to make a transformation, it needs to be driven by the CEO and not by the people who would traditionally hold the IT purse strings.
Yeah. I mean, having access to AI in your corporate environment and giving people access to those tools, there's a whole runway of roadblocks there just to get that happen. But let's just say we've got it. Then getting people to use it is probably an even bigger challenge. Most people might have a little play with it at home on ChatGPT, but generally, how are they going to adopt it at work? How are they going to use AI to change the way they work and do something that makes them more productive? What we tend to see in most teams is there might be one or two people that have kind of got this natural inclination, a drive to do it. The majority are quite happy doing it the way they've always done. So there's a cultural transformation element in getting people to adopt that. And I think one of the things that we've done, we've introduced capability in terms of performance management of use of AI in your job. And as part of our performance management now, we're asking people to give examples and to talk about that learning and how they're adopting it. And we've got an internal program called Drinking Our Own Champagne that's kind of driving that message to everybody. We don't want to be that landscape gardener that's got a crappy backyard. We want to be a data and AI company that's got a world-class data platform that's leveraging AI at work, that's the best example of what we'd expect our customers to do. And getting that mindset and driving that into companies, I think, is tough.
And do you have, you've got the awards program. What else have you seen as the sort of either the challenges that you face or the things that have helped, oil the wheels?
Of what in particular, of running the business?
Oh, just know the AI adoption in the workforce. I speak to CEOs all the time, and we have this conversation, which is you would think the dev team would pick it up first.
We've got a classic set of different teams. We build our own software products, so we've got an engineering function. You mentioned engineering is a good target. Most of the big large language models now are building capability for code generation. I think one of the big darlings of that space was Cursor AI, and it's still phenomenal. What we've done is our CTO has got really hands-on with that technology, has played around with it, trying to get it to do some heavy lifting in lots of different ways of working. And he's figured out where it can really add a lot of value and save you days and weeks. And in other areas where it's actually pretty crap, but it's that experimenting and playing with it. He likes to talk about it as giving people a power tool. If you give a carpenter, who's hanging doors, they still need to have that skill of knowing how to hang that door. But ultimately, in today's life, we want to give them power tools that allow them to do that properly. And if we didn't arm builders with power tools, they'd all walk out. We've got these tools now, these incredible power tools. And I think one of the things that we have to remember is the software engineering world hasn't had any disruption like this. They've kind of all been left to their own devices, learning new languages, busy doing it how they've always done. And something's come along and just exploded that. But the key here is to get people, champions in your team, that have learnt those lessons and that can take that team on a journey and get them to start using it. People will always struggle, will always dig their heels in. But if you can demonstrate this is where it can add transformational value, this is the power tool that's going to save you days and weeks of doing something you probably don't want to be doing anymore, then that is that guiding light, and you can take people on that journey. And we've got to do that in every single department that we've got. And those people who don't do it will be laggards, and I think we'll lose.
Let me interrupt the conversation just for a minute because I don't want you to miss this. My new book, Mind Your Fucking Business, is out on Amazon. If you're thinking yet another business book, I think you're wrong. This is actually a blueprint to cutting through the noise and achieving unparalleled success for you. It's based on 10 years of business coaching, spotting similar problems that people have had and coming up with real-world solutions. If it's supercharging sales, if it's mastering talent acquisition, building a powerhouse brand, cultivating a company culture that breeds success, then this book is a ticket to your transformative journey. It's filled with practical tools and frameworks that I use every single day with my clients as part of their coaching program. If you want to take your business from good to great, look, you can go to Amazon and you can buy it, or you can click the link in the show notes and head over to monkhouseandcompany.com and I'll give you a copy. I'll send it to you today. I'll send you a copy for free. I want to help you build a fantastic business. Now, back to the conversation.
If you think about your leadership team, and CTO's that a great example there, do you see the same level of curiosity in your leadership team? And is this a new requirement that you think is emerging? Because, if the finance guy wasn't curious about generative AI in the past, it probably didn't impact his ability to do his job. But now if he doesn't, his team are probably not going to adopt the tools as quickly as you might like. Is this a sort of if you're thinking about your team, curiosity becomes a new category of the things that differentiate the best from the okay?
Yeah. No, 100%. I caution my answer with we're a data and AI company with our own workplace AI platform. Through drinking our own champagne, we've pushed it out to everyone. It's a strategic initiative that we talk about a lot. We measure, people's use of it. We've introduced it into our performance management aspects, and we recognise that our customers, potential investors, shareholders will see greater value in the company by our ability to demonstrate that we use it. So I think that we've got an incentive that's far greater than most companies. However, everything that you're talking about, we face that same challenge. Getting people to think and behave differently and experiment and try is still something that we go into battle with every day.
One of the things one of the other awards that we were chatting about before we were recording was one that used to have Knobber of the Year.
Yeah.
And so I think that certainly I love that, that. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, but I think that goes to the heart of you creating a culture where people are psychologically safe to say they've failed or they've tried, or at least fall flat on their face and pick themselves up again.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite awards of the year. It's something that we've done since we formed the company. We have a number of MVP awards. It's the only one that we actually give a cash prize to. We pay $2,500 as a cash prize for that person and their partner to go on a city break. We want people to basically nominate themselves. You can only nominate yourself for the award. You've got to put that in writing. It then comes to the management team who sift out all of the nominations that don't meet it. We really want this to be an epic fail and want this to be something that, you're quite scared about winning this award. It's not really something people want to win. But when we get those nominations in, and we sift them to be the real mistakes, they then get sent out to everybody in the company. All staff get that, and they vote. And then obviously the person that gets the most votes wins. And it's quite an honour because the person who was the Knobber of the Year in the previous year gets the honour of introducing them and handing over the trophy. And it's kind of a relief to be rid of that. And then the other person has the burden of it. I've put myself forward for a few of these awards. It's not something we necessarily encourage people to do, but
it's not don't go out and make a mistake so that it's Knobber worthy.
When someone does make a mistake now, people immediately say, "Oh, you want to get your nomination in quick." So it's become like an everyday thing that we talk about. And to bring that back to seriousness for a minute, we want to celebrate failure. We want to celebrate epic failures, something that someone really didn't want to happen. And the act of putting yourself out there in front of everybody is quite humbling. And people sitting in the audience thanking God that it wasn't them really grabs that attention. But if we can, in a light-hearted way, share something, all learn from it and never do that again, times 200 people, then that's a really valuable thing to do. And I think also, I've been talking to you about experimentation with AI, and that's the only way to get out of the blocks. And a lot of the work that we do for our customers, helping them build data and digital products, we do in an agile way. And agile is all about failing faster and learning quick. So, the way that we deploy value and technology to our customers requires this kind of iterative, rather than having something big at the start, 2 years of building and then da-da at the end and they go, well, that's not what I wanted. It's more about how do we build something quickly, test it, learn from that and keep going, and you kind of go on a journey. So Knobber of the Year, failing fast, experimentation, it feeds through the DNA of the company.
Very good. I've got a few sort of quick questions, really, which are about your evolution as the CEO, as the business has scaled, to see if we can pick your brains on some of these quickly. Do you have a top hiring tip?
Yes, I do. One of my first things is, and I remember learning this from a recruiter at the start of my career, make sure that when you leave that interview, you can't imagine running the business without that person. You kind of want to be madly in love and excited about that asset now in your organization and what it can do for you, and can't imagine not having them there. And the flip side to that is, if you find yourself making excuses in that interview, then you have to remind yourself that your customers will see what you're seeing now. And so if you're starting to find yourself making those excuses, then leave it. I think you've got to be really tough, really picky, and I'd also say I'd favour attitude and culture and values over experience as well. I want to find someone that is going to walk through walls and go the extra yard and really fit into the culture that we've got. I think that's underestimated in some companies.
Yeah. If you think about the leadership team that you started with, which I guess probably emerges when you've got about 30 people or so. How many of those early leaders are still on the leadership team today?
That's a great question. Probably one.
Okay, you.
No, two. My wife, we actually met on day one of forming the company. We got married 10 years ago, and she is the Chief People and Finance Officer. But it's a really good point, is the company has evolved over those times. And I'd say one of the most difficult things of being a founder, setting up an initial team, getting people to fund that and go on a journey together, and then figuring out that some of those people are actually better off doing other jobs and bringing in new senior managers. That's a tricky thing to navigate. I joined Vistage Group about 5 years ago now, and I was there for, I think, nearly 3 years, and I was put in a group, a cohort of 15 CEOs based kind of in and around this area, and I learned an awful lot by being part of that. You know, a consistent theme, although we're all from different walks, different sizes and shapes, as a founder-led operator, you know, that's one of the hardest things to deal with. And I learned an awful lot about that. We used to sit in these meetings, you'd kind of pour your heart out, share your big challenge, and everyone had it, but you kind of had to then agree what you were going to go and do about it and come to the next meeting having done something. And that few years of doing that was life-changing for me. Another thing that really came through was about being in the business or running the business. I used to feel proud prior to joining that Vistage Group that, you know, I was still billing some time, I was involved in sales, I was, you know, active in workshops. I felt like that was part of being a founder and being at the helm. But through the learning of Vistage, it was about how do you make yourself redundant operationally and give yourself the time to think strategy and think how you're going to communicate that endpoint and take people with you. That was a massive gift from those few years.
Brilliant, Steve. And as we just wrap up here, what books have been influential for you along the way that you think maybe other people could pull insights from as well?
Well, I have to admit, I don't read a lot of books. I've read a handful of books since uni. I've bought so many business books, taken them on holiday, and then returned them unread. I've dabbled with a few audibles, which has been cool. But the books that I would recommend have actually come from kind of earlier in my career. The first one is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yep.
And that has been one of our values is brave. Got a sign in the office, a neon sign with brave and feel the fear and do it anyway underneath it. And every now and again I will talk about that. But for me, what I took from the book was how to develop that trigger that when you feel the fear, just get on and do it. And it's become something that's been part of my life for 20 odd years. And I try and bring that into younger people and get them to feel that and do it anyway. So I'd recommend that. My most recent book, which is probably still, I've read that probably 4 or 5 years ago, was Fierce Conversations, Susan Scott. I think an ex-Google employee. That captivated me pretty much from the first page. That's really the thing that I took from Fierce Conversations is it's actually the kindest thing that you can do to someone who's failing or underperforming is to tell them. And it kind of teaches you how to go and have what you might think is an unthinkable conversation that's going to be devastating. And it kind of turns the mindset into it's the kindest thing that you can do and it's really going to help them. And then my last one, which is the oldest one, is Hope is Not a Strategy. Hope is...
Sales book.
Yeah, Rick Page.
Yeah. Yeah, remember that. Yeah.
That came from the start of my career with EDS. I worked for a guy who used to keep a big pair of ears with a bit of wire, almost like headphones, but he'd replace the headphones with 2 big ears. And if any sales guy came into his office and started talking about a deal that they were working on, he'd always just lean back, pull the happy ears off of his wall and put them on and say, yeah, carry on. And my take on it is that we all love that kind of high energy, excitable, this is going to happen. But reading that book and the learnings that I've had over the years is it can make you very weak, and it's really, really important to understand pain and value and decision making, and how you need a really quite disciplined approach to sales. And somebody coming in getting all excited without all of that thinking done, hope is definitely not a strategy. It's gonna make you fail very fast.
Steve, that's brilliant. What a great way to close out our chat. Thank you very much indeed for coming on today.
No worries, Dan. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Next time on Curious Leadership.
Other industries would not let their people sit there and twiddle their thumbs 35% of the time.
35% of the time standing around.
I'm Shelley Copsey, CEO and co-founder of a company called Field. We work in the infrastructure sector. We see these mega projects running late. We help remote command centres understand where operational risk is emerging in real time. One of the struggles this industry has always had is, if I want a safer work site, I've got to trade off productivity and time.
Where have you got to on the journey? Turnover, people?
There's about 55 of us. We're doing 80% year-on-year growth this year, coming up doing our Series B capital raise.
How have you freed up time so that you can focus on that?
My inbox has got about 104,000 unread messages. It is concerning to look at the job market today. People with computer science degrees are virtually unemployable in their early years. I don't think that we're going to get to the future we're all looking for without having a period of adjustment that is going to hurt. That would be naive.